pastor at Mount Cathedral Community Baptist Church, and it is my absolute pleasure to be able to have Ethel Leary with me this morning in our little makeshift studio here. And Ethel is the only other remaining member from our foundational members at the start of the church. So yourself and Claudine, as I understand.
That's it.
So what I'd like to do, Ethel, is just ask you a few questions that relate to the church, and particularly the first one would be, how and why did Mount Cathedral Community Baptist Church begin? What were the circumstances surrounding its beginning?
Well, there was a split with the church at Marysville, and it just wasn't biblical, we thought, some of us. There was only, I thought there was 14, Claudine thinks there was 16, I think.
Yep.
And some of them were going down to Lilydale Baptist, and then one chap, Paul, said, oh, well, I think we've got enough really to start a church. So that's what happened. So that's how it all came about.
Okay. So Paul Belousov was part of Marysville Church at the time?
Yes,
okay.
He was.
And then he was one of the ones who also was feeling like the Marysville Church was headed in a different direction. And he too was going to Lilydale for a time with you?
Yes, yes.
And
I wasn't going to Lilydale,
yep,
mainly because of distance, but Claudine, there was Paul and Kobe and the 3 children, and Claudine and Bruce, her husband. Oh, and there was Derek and Chris Reynolds and their 2 girls.
Yes.
They were all going to Lilydale Baptist. Yeah.
Okay. And then Paul's idea to form?
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it might have been all of them. I don't
Sure.
know if it was all of them or just his. I think it was all of them, really. He might have suggested it.
Yes.
But then I think they all agreed, those 3 different families, yeah.
Yep.
So that's how it first started.
And the first church service, as I understand, was on the 21st of February 1999. I had Claudine in the studio earlier who explained all that went on the Saturday before. Apparently there was a lot of cleaning and work being done in the hall. You may not remember that.
No, because I was in having an operation and I couldn't be there, and I was really disappointed, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you there for the first service on the Sunday?
No.
No, you couldn't make it to that first service. Okay.
One of the few times I've ever been in hospital, really.
Okay. So what's your first memory then of being with the organised church? Do you remember, was it the week after or several weeks later?
I can't think what I had wrong with me. It probably was a week after, or 2 weeks probably at the most.
Yep,
yeah.
Okay. And do you have any recollections of even just the early days there, what was happening? You were meeting in the Buxton Hall, correct?
That's correct,
yep.
Yes.
People who are around, any memories that would be helpful for those who don't know anything about the history?
Well, duties, we all had a certain amount of duties.
Yep.
And of course we were sort of doing a lot each. I know Bruce and Claudine used to go down Saturday afternoons and clean it all out because other people had been using it in the week.
Yes.
Like the school does and probably still does, I'm not
Yes.
sure. And so they used to clean it all out and set up the seats and all that sort of thing. And then, of course, we had the same sort of rosters as we had here. Flowers, morning tea, what else? Whatever else there is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
The offering and communion, all that sort of thing. We all had our duties on special times.
So what were some of the things you were involved in over the years in the church by way of ministries?
Probably the whole lot.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Well, I know, well, not the cleaning, but morning teas, doing communion. We used to have children's talk every week.
Yes.
So there was 6 of us, I think, that was on children's talk.
Yep.
What else did we have there? Whatever else you have at church anyway, we sort of were in the
Other sort of rosters?
other sort of rosters, yes. We all took our turn in whatever.
Okay, so being foundational in setting all of that up over the years, so we're approaching our 17th year as a church now. What are some of your favourite memories over that period of time, having been here for that length? Whether specific or just general ones, whatever.
Let me think. Well, it's the closeness of the church family, that I liked. And, of course, with me, as you know, I can talk a lot sometimes. And people are just so, so friendly. And also the spiritual side of it as well, our leading and different things you think you know a reasonable amount about the Bible. But then there's always usually, every so often, you think, oh, yeah, I never thought of that meaning that sort of thing. So it's good, the different outlook on things that ministers or Bible study leaders can sort of, show you. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So some of those things. So it sounds like a lot of those memories relate to fellowship times, the intimacy and the closeness, but also the study of the Word.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also had Bible study, of course, as
Yes.
well. So
Yep.
that was very important.
And I understand now, I think, was it Kobe who ran that in the early days for the ladies as a Bible study?
Kobe ran, I'm trying to think about the Bible study. I know Kobe ran we had a craft group.
Okay, yep.
And we used to have about 22 come
Yep.
to that down
Okay.
in Buxton. Some of them used to come to church and a lot of them didn't.
Yes.
But it was a good time to get to know them and
Yep.
encourage them, sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So there's obviously been some key individuals along the way in relationship to maintaining the church, and obviously there's been some speed bumps along the way too. There's been
we have
some
speed
hiccups
bumps,
and some difficulties. So the key people along the way, I mean, everybody's keen at church, I know, but are there some specific people along the way who you think have really maintained direction for the church in order to keep it where it is? Obviously it began with Paul.
Yes, Paul and Kobe and Bruce and Claudine, because one stage there, we used to have a Bible study at their place. And then later on, I can remember, before the fires, Liz used to, quite often she used to run the Bible study.
So that would be Rod's wife?
Yes.
Elizabeth, yes. Yep.
Yeah. What else, the key things?
Or key individuals along the way? Obviously
individuals.
In mid-2000s, somewhere in there, Paul was no longer able to take on the pastorate.
No.
Who was involved in stepping up there and helping?
I'm trying to think. I know Ivor was there quite a bit,
Yes.
but not always. We used to get speakers in.
Yes.
We used to get Ken Rowe, well, he lost his life in the fire.
Yes.
He was a great one he'd go to Canberra too and speak out to CRE in schools. So Ken was really good.
Yep.
Then we had, after the fires, sometimes we didn't have any minister or to speak or anything.
Yep.
So Killian and Robin would get, what's his name, John MacArthur. They'd have his videos.
Yes.
Not videos, DVDs, I
Yes.
suppose it was.
Yep.
And so we'd have those instead of a speaker. 'Cause
played,
we couldn't always get a speaker.
Sure. Okay. So, okay,
So
good.
Kelly and Robin had a great part to play, and Bruce too. He was the secretary there for quite a while, and then I think I'm not sure about this. If I think Robin, or between them, Robin and Kelly, did this treasury and
Yes.
secretary and everything after the fires. I
Yep.
think they were just about doing most things,
Sure.
getting speakers when we could find them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there was a lot to be done around that sort of time with the fires. Yep. Okay. A question I've asked of most of the people I've had come through for the interviews today. How would you describe Mount Cathedral Community Baptist Church in just 3 words?
Oh boy.
Individual words. So, and actually, to be honest, everyone's failed so far. So you might be the first one to get it right. Just 3 words that you think would summarise them.
Well, they're caring
Okay. Caring,
and loving,
loving,
and what would you say for our grounding in the spiritual side?
You can use a hyphen, so you could do. I'm not going to tell you though.
Yeah, hyphen. Oh dear.
What are you thinking of? It doesn't have to be a word. What are you?
No, I'm thinking of the spiritual side, our growth, our growth in on the spiritual side.
Okay.
It's more than one word, but
So, yep. So, would you say Bible-centered, as a
Yes,
sense, like it's the
yeah,
focus on
yeah.
the Scripture and the
that's
Word?
probably what I need.
Okay. So, loving, caring, and Bible-centered.
Bible-centered, yep.
Okay. Great. Well, you've done very well. That's
Have I?
good.
Oh.
Yes, it's very good. One of the most important things for me in conducting these interviews is really this next question. Long after you and I may be gone, if the Lord tarries, and others may view this video, young people, older people who are coming up through the church in time to come, what message or truth would you communicate to them as it relates to their own personal walk with the Lord, the church, any of that sort of thing? What would you want to say by way of a legacy to them?
Trust and obey.
Yep. So tell me more what you mean by that. Trust and obey.
Trust of what the Bible says, the message that the Lord gives to you, just to trust Him and obey what He says, what you learn in the Bible and from your minister or whoever, Bible study or something, because sometimes some people, and it might be myself too, that you think you know best in some things when you're having hard times, but sometimes we put through hard times and see how we go through it, and it's to test us for other things that might come or others might go through, and then we can sort of help them perhaps through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. Trust and obey. What a great summary of what to tell the present but the future generations of our church too.
That's what Liz Blythefield, that's what her main thing was, trust and obey.
Motto,
Yeah, I remember that now.
And what does the song say? There's no other way.
Yes, right.
There's no other way. Yeah, that's really good. I think that's a wonderful summary. Anything else that comes to mind as we conclude this little interview video? Things that relate to our church, anything else that you might want to add, memories or just comments that would be helpful for people to know, do you think? And take a moment to think about it.
Memories. Oh gosh, this is a bit hard. If you have any problem with anybody, don't ever hold a grudge with anybody. Always go and approach them and sort it out too. That's another thing, because both people might be thinking the same thing, but one's not going to approach the other and vice versa. But that's what we're sort of told to do, is sort any problems out. And I don't know where it was, and it's years ago this happened, I don't know what it was all about, but I was listening to these two ladies somewhere, it might have been just up the street, and they were both saying something, although I do think it was a church. They were both saying something and they weren't listening to one another. So you've got to make sure your listening is more important than you're saying, in a way. And they were both saying the same thing, and yet they weren't agreeing. They just weren't listening. So your most important is listening. Yeah,
that's good. And sort out your differences quickly. Don't hold grudges.
That's right.
Yep, they're great truths to pass on. And you have been a Christian for how many years, around about?
Hang on. I was 8.5, so now it must be 74.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for 74.5 years you have known and loved the Lord and served the Lord.
Yes.
And what would you say about the Lord over those 74 years?
Oh, He's always been with me, yes.
Okay.
Through thick and thin. I mean, it's not always easy. And even when you have the Lord with you. But He sometimes pushed us through these times to make us stronger.
Yes.
We know, and He knows, like we know, we can turn to Him in any circumstance, sort of thing. And it won't just perhaps happen overnight, but it will happen, sometime, whenever He chooses.
Okay.
That's His decision, not mine.
Yep. That's good. Finally, one other thought that's on my mind to ask you is, what would you say is the key for me, for us as a local assembly, ensuring that we continue as we have? We have a very wonderful, rich tradition, lots of speed bumps and things, but how do we maintain a spiritual focus as a local church and continue as we have been? What would you say to that?
To always put God first in your life, centre of everything.
Okay, so Lord first. And when He's first, the rest falls into its appropriate place.
Yep.
That's good. Amen. Those are great thoughts. Thank you so much for taking the time to come.
Oh, that's all right. I was a bit scared, but
no, it's really good, and we will be showing this not only for our anniversary service this year and maybe other years, but also for the future. So thank you, my sister, for coming.
No worries.
Appreciate it so much.